Welcome to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Linkowski. I am a certified franchise consultant representing hundreds of franchise concepts. And Franchise Focus is all about putting a spotlight on individuals that are professionals within the franchise industry, those experts. And so today I have in studio Tom Spadea with Spadea Lignana Law Firm. And welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Lisa. Good to be here. Appreciate it.
Very glad to have you with us today. So you are a franchise attorney,
I am.
Right? So we're going to be talking all about franchising. But let's just back up a moment here and talk about your background, which is very vast and has, pretty incredible depth to it.
Perfect. Well, thank you. One of the things about my background is that I haven't always professionally been an attorney. In fact, I didn't go to law school until I was in my mid-30s. So, I've had the firm now. Josh, Liana, and I started the firm 10 years ago. Prior to that, I finished up law school, and before that, I was involved in franchising. I was always involved in small business. I grew up in a small business. My grandfather started a machine shop after World War II. My father ran that business, and then post-college, I was involved with that for a while. Was also involved in another small business in Pennsylvania. And then from there, I always like to say you learn from what doesn't go right. That business didn't go as planned. And so around 9/11, we closed that business, lost a lot of money, learned a lot of stuff, and I pivoted. So at this point, I was in my early 30s. I pivoted towards brokerage, and franchising is what came around. So I started selling restaurants and other service companies in that, and so I became a franchise consultant. Now, I always joke, right, is that when I was 30, I really looked like I was in high school. So no business owners would take me seriously. So I did much better on the phone, and I would talk to people and sort of guide them through that process. But then law school was something that, I really started thinking about. And so I applied, I got into Temple at night, and at the same time I got hired by Rita's Italian Ice, a big brand in Philadelphia. Yeah. They had just been acquired by private equity. This is about 2005. And so they brought me in on franchise sales, and I had a great run with Rita's for about 3 years, selling franchises during the day and going to law school at night. And so it's a unique perspective, I think, is that I have been on just about every part of the business side of franchising. From working in a corporate franchise, being part of a changeover of a business, selling franchises, working with franchisees. So it's great, right? I don't have a lot of broad experience, but I have very, very deep and narrow experience in franchising, and I love it. I mean, really, I love what I get to do every day with business owners. Yeah,
incredible. And to sit there and be doing franchise development by day and going for law school at night, no easy feat.
No, and right? you got, the only downside of that is that my wife's name is not on my diploma, as it should be, because she was the trooper with 2 young kids at home.
Right, and with family on top of that.
Through those years of sacrifice. But, it all worked out.
Yeah, good for you. So incredible background, in franchising, 100%. So everyone, when I talk to them, they think about food. I even say now, I go, so when I say franchising, what's your first thought? And it's food. From your standpoint of representing franchisors, what do you see in the for food versus the other types of concepts that are out there?
I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say it's probably a quarter to a third of franchise systems are food-based. So I think it's what the general public thinks of franchising, and you think of food because it's a little bit more, you see it on every corner, but really the service brands, you talk about what happened in COVID and during the pandemic, and the service brands really thrived. Franchising, it is about branding. Of course, and having that standard brand. But I always tell people who want to become a franchisor, it's really about education and teaching. Franchising is about standards and a business model, and a franchisee is getting into something that a franchisor has figured out and done well. So the person who might be your plumber, or who, we have a lot of, who sprays for mosquitoes or cleans your pool or does something in the service industry could very well be a franchise, and you didn't necessarily buy as a consumer from that franchise because, this is on every street corner and they're the biggest. It's because they probably figured out a really good way to execute and deliver the brand promise to the consumer. And so, they outcompete a lot of independent businesses because of that knowledge base. So yeah, it's 3/4 are probably non-food.
Excellent. And fragmented. right? That's what we
Yeah.
see with the locally independent owned businesses, is that it's a very fragmented, space, and they don't have those systems in place often. And with a franchise, you get all of that. You get the training, you get the marketing, you get the sales, you get this, you get that. You have all of
You
this.
get the mistakes.
You get the mistakes.
That all the things that they did wrong over the 10
That's
or 20
correct.
years and they grow.
Great.
And that's
Yes,
a great value.
You get all of the mistakes, and you sit there and you get to now have this concept that you get to roll out with. And when everyone sits there and they look at food, and I go, why are you looking at food? You're just looking at food because it's what you know. Let's look at things that you don't know, and let's look at things that are different but not trendy, not too flash in the pan, but things that you never woke up thinking, I want to do this, right? But here's the reason why you do want to do this, and this is why it is the big word, sexy, right? That it's sexy.
And it's also individual, and you must see this more than I see this, but and now that you're in the franchising world, you go to like a family reunion or something of people outside the franchising. Lisa, so what is the best franchise?
What's the best franchise?
Tell me I get to ask that question all the time. And now as a lawyer, I give the lawyer answer.
I want to know what your answer is.
Well, it depends, right? If people want to throw a dish at me when I say it depends. But that is the answer. So I say, look, there are multiple, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Right. There are so many choices. So what really matters is the connect. I mean, that's why I love what you do as professionals in your industry, because it's really about pairing. It's about getting someone who has, now, if someone is really buttoned up. Now, food, I think, sometimes works for people who maybe they're not sales oriented and they're more engineering specific and they just want to sort of stay within those four walls. But if you've been out and you're used to corporate environment and you're a salesperson, you're very personable and you have a passion for this. I always say, I call it my reunion rule. You shouldn't buy a business strictly based on the numbers. Now, the numbers matter, but you have to have a passion for it. Yep. So the reunion rule is, if you're going to go to your next college reunion and tell everybody that you're in this business and you can't stop talking about it to the point that your kids start yelling at you, then that's probably a decent business for you, because you're going to wake out of bed with energy to execute the plan that the franchisor ruled out. So, it's your business, but you're running that business plan. So everybody's different. That's why there's so many different pieces of it.
Life is a box of chocolates, right?
Yes.
And there is so much choice. And I was a franchise owner myself, and I was that person where I talked about it all the time. And my family was going to strangle me. And I said it seeped into my very essence of my soul. Right. And from the moment it got started, I was thinking about it night and day. I met with a candidate just last night, and I said, take money aside, push it aside. How excited are you about this? And he goes, I'm not. I go, then that's the answer. Cut it loose.
Exactly.
Cut it loose, but he feels bad. And I'm like, no, don't feel bad. This is the process. But he has another concept that from the gate, he's been excited about and passionate about and thinking about and starting to, think about ideas and how he wants to execute it. That's more important than what the money, the financial is important, but that passion is so important.
And the community, right?
Yes.
And even as franchise lawyers, like when we're looking at that or we're helping franchisees, we always say, look, the document, for various reasons, you're buying into a brand. So when you're buying into a brand, it's not like a normal contract negotiation where it's just, like maybe a landlord or a lease, or you're renting the studio, the landlord send the check, I'm never showing up, that's the end of the relationship. With a franchisor, you're really, you're not a partner, but you're involved. But people say, oh, these agreements are so strict. Well, that's good for you, because if there's a knucklehead down the street who's not really
following the system.
Exactly. You actually beware, and it might sound counterintuitive, but I tell people beware of the franchisor that gives you everything you want, because they're not leaders then. They're not really leading that brand. So for a franchisee, they have to have the passion, but then they need to talk to other franchisees in the system. They ought to understand that they're joining this kind of community of interest, and that is when done well, that's when franchising really thrives, is that you have all these players who are putting in their capital, putting in their heart, putting in their personality and passion and thinking about it every day, and done well. I think it's the best way. I mean, I'm biased, so take it, but I think it is the absolute best way for small business owners to thrive.
Right. And you just led me to the next best question that someone had asked me recently. Do I believe that franchising is overregulated? And franchising, for those that don't know, it's overseen by the Federal Trade Commission. And I said no. From me, no. Now, other people out there right now, franchisors are going, what? And they're throwing something at the TV, but what's your take on that?
I don't think it's overregulated. Now, obviously, the lawyer's going to say that, but the reality is I don't. I think when I look at, and we had some guys in our practice years ago that did securities business and some who did banking work, and we really look at how regulatory, the smothering sometimes. The essence of franchise regulations is to level the information playing field, which at the end is good for franchisors and franchisees. It's about putting together, for those of you new to franchising, there's a franchise disclosure document. It's, in a new franchise, maybe 70, 80 pages, plus 70 or 80 pages of the franchise agreement itself. Overall, you're talking about a 150-page document. To a mature franchise, maybe 300 pages. So people's eyes glaze over. But the reality is there's information in there that the government is saying, look, you can have the relationship that you want. You can charge people this way, you can charge a technology fee, you can decide whatever your territory is, but you just need to explain it. And in there, you need to say, what's it going to cost, high and low, and give your best estimate to open it, so that you create this expectation. So, now, there are certain states that also regulate, and so it makes it a little bit complicated. But the reality is, for franchisees, it's good because they get clearer information. They can then make a better informed decision, which quite frankly will make them better franchisees. And the flip side is, for franchisors, it creates this document where everybody, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a known entity. You're going to send an FDD. They're looking at 3 concepts. They can compare apples to apples.
Exactly.
And it's not like securities where it's really onerous. Now, for franchisors, the guardrails are pretty wide. But if you step over that, it can be really punishing in that you might have to, give that money back depending on the state, or you kind of expose yourself. But it's relatively simple. And in the overall cost of being a franchisor, it's very cost effective to stay compliant, comparative to a lot of different industries. So no, I really don't think it's overregulated. I think there's a push to sort of maybe regulate it a little bit more, and I just don't think it's necessary. It's like enforce the rules that we have. They're good rules.
Right.
All people don't follow them because that's sort of the nature of humans. So I think there's a push to get franchisors to be a little bit more compliant, to be a little bit more sensitive to it. But no, I don't think it's too regulated. I think it strikes the right balance.
And to your point, that when I have a candidate that I show them, let's say 4 concepts, and they go, I only like this one. Just show me this one. And I go, no. I go, look at all of them, because then you get to sit there and see the same document for each of them.
Right.
And you get to compare and you get to contrast the different things within them, and then that can either make this even more of an informed decision, or all of a sudden you go, wait a second, how come they're charging that royalty fee, but this one is only this royalty fee, and what's with this transfer fee, and how about this non-compete for, this one's 30 months, and how about, and you can start to sit there and see this. If you don't have that to compare, you've got nothing. You don't know anything else.
and it's all about education. So a franchisee candidate, and I know you do a phenomenal job of walking people through that process. Franchisee candidate is really making 2 decisions. One is, do they have the sort of DNA to be a franchisee in the first place? And that is following rules, being part of it, looking through these documents, following a process, and then what franchise system, once you've made that sort of A-B decision of, do I want to be a franchisee? And I think the FDD and those documents, they drive you towards that. You see that it is regulated, that there is, but some people like that because there's a safety in, this is what I'm supposed to do. I mean, people ask, and this is funny, and now most of our practice represents franchisors, but I see this with the successful franchisees in our client systems and franchisees I've represented. If a franchisor tells you do these 10 things every week, do them 20 times. Do them 30 times. They're the successful franchisees. Don't overthink it. And so if you go into it thinking, why are they doing this? Why? Always remember that as strict as the document is, as tough as the document is, as heavily weighted it is towards the franchisor, the franchisor can't really get rid of you as a franchisee if you're paying your bills. It's an employee you can't fire. So they have to be really cautious about who they let in. But you as a franchisee, you can put up a for sale, you can call a broker, and you can sell the business, and you can get out of Dodge tomorrow if you don't like the business. Now, you may lose money, but you can get divorced. So you have to remember that also is where that interplay of who's in charge of that relationship plays.
great. There's so much incredible information, and we unfortunately are going to, well, not unfortunately, we are going to quickly take a commercial break, and we're going to pick up on the other side.
Our new home. Lots of windows, great light.
But the birds. They're back.
Yes, I hear them.
Uh-oh. Why are these birds so angry?
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
We save a lot.
I'm going. Ah!
Hurry,
I know.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Welcome. I'm Barry Lefkowitz. I'm your host on New Perspectives on RVN TV. I come to you each week with issues and topics that you will generally find in the news. And if you're looking to be able to get caught up and know what's going on, then New Perspectives is the show for you on RVN TV. Look forward to having you.
Welcome back to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Linkowski, and having such a great discussion with Tom Spadea with Spadea and Lignana Law Firm. And you're over in Plymouth.
No, we're in Philadelphia.
You're
Old
over
City.
in Philadelphia, right? And so right before the break, you had mentioned that you mostly, you're a franchise attorney, and that you mostly work with franchisors, meaning the people that are the head of the franchise system. And I know you are super excited because you're launching, or you've launched, this brand new system that's going to be very beneficial to the franchisors. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so thanks. So, you know, as you said, Lisa, a big majority of our practice is representing new and emerging franchisors. So, you know, people come, they have, you know, a couple units or a single unit, and we want to sort of duplicate that. And we talked about the regulations and the FDD. So for a franchisor, primarily they have to keep straight their franchise disclosure document, and they have to update that every year. And then you layer on top of that, there's about 16 states in varying degrees where you have to actually send the FDD, get approval from that state, or at least notify that state that you're going to sell franchises in that state. So, you know, and that also is something that happens every year. And
Every year, it's happening right now.
It's happening right now. We're right in the thick of it.
Right in the thick of it.
So we have found that one of the challenges that some of our brands have is the back and forth. And it's like, am I registered in that state or not? And then which document? And at this time, it's, you know, I disclosed the candidate, and we're in mid-February, and now all of a sudden it's, you know, April, and I have a new document, I have to redisclose them. So that kind of back and forth that, you know, a lot of our, I'd say, competitors, or the way it's traditionally been done, is just emails, Word documents, updates that. So we started with a program to deliver the FDD in a way to know that the right FDD got delivered to the right candidate. We have a map system that, you know, the states are either red or they're green, and that was where we started about 4 years ago. And we just kept improving and improving, and now we've exposed that system to our franchisor clients, so they basically have transparent information on where the regulatory stuff, right? So here's the map now that is part of our CAP system that we expose to our clients, and that those blue dots show where we're filing things. So if we're in Illinois in this example, if the state is red, we're not approved, but we filed with the state. And that gives the franchise salespeople and the owners the comfort level to know that I'm in compliance, because, you know, you roll that forward, and CAP is all built around, and our whole philosophy is built around, and I think I mentioned this before, we primarily charge flat fees to our franchisors. It's a subscription model. We don't charge hourly, because we're trying to take this franchise system, and emerging franchisors, sometimes annual revenues are smaller than their franchisees. So they're small businesses as well, and they're growing. And our goal and our passion is to help that small business take this business and grow it, you know, 20, 50, 100 times. I tell people, if your goal, for those of you who are looking at this and saying, I'm thinking about being a franchisor, if your goal is to double or triple your income, don't franchise. It's too busy. It's too much work. You're dealing with lawyers and money, too much risk. Go out, read the E-Myth and get a couple of units and get some good managers. But if you want to take this business that's maybe generating, $1 million in revenue and $100,000 or $200,000 in profit, and you really think it's systemized, and you want to blow that out across the country, franchising is the only realistic model to do that. And you could be looking at, I have clients who came to me that could barely pay the bills 7 years ago, and now they're sitting on businesses worth $20, $30 million. It's incredibly gratifying. So, our CAP system, our philosophy, everything is trying to kindle those initial brands. And, when franchisees, back to talk about the risk factor, franchisors, it's probably only 1 out of 5 that really get over that hump and get into that, 50 plus units. Right. So there's a lot more risk for the franchisor. Now, risk reward, they have a whole lot higher reward. It's not to say that those that don't grow fail, they just never get up to that really large scale level. So we design CAP, that software as an interface. The example I use, it's like online banking. In 20 years ago or 30 years ago, before online banking, you'd have to go to the bank or call the bank or wait for your statement and say, oh, this is how much money I have, I want to do a transaction. Go to a teller. It costs the bank money, it costs you time, it's energy, and you don't always have exactly up-to-date information. So our system is designed to give our clients a window into the picture. Where's their FDD stand? What information? There was another screenshot of our FDD that shows, which piece of the FDD are we waiting on information for our clients, which one are we? Because every year we go through that exercise and, we're updating a 300-page document. So, right, here it is there. So that portal gives you an example. The red means, hey, client, we need item 2, which is the management team and all that. We need that information from you. They send it back to us. In this example, item 22, okay, we're reviewing that. And it just is a way to keep everybody on the same page. So it saves us time, saves the client money, and all of that.
It's an automation tool.
Exactly.
And instead of having threads of emails where
Yes.
things get lost, and in the 7th bullet point, the franchisor said, hey, can you make this change? And your law firm somehow didn't see that because
Correct.
all this back and forth. Now it's all there and outlined and easily accessible by your client to pull it up, see exactly where they are. I love this.
I'm glad we recorded what you just said, because that's exactly.
Yeah, I get it. It's
Yeah.
really intelligent. I see it. I see it with myself where you lose the
You do.
translation in email and you go, oh, I didn't even see that. I blanked and went to the next thing. So when did you launch this? It was just recent,
Yeah,
right?
we've been working on it for years, but we just rolled it out to our clients in mid-January for this year's FDD renewal. So the feedback has been fantastic.
They're doing tap dancing right now.
The feedback has been great because it just, and the truth is the feedback from my team has been great because it also takes a lot of that stress out of, am I missing that? I have to go back through, right, when your email bunches them in the one thread and you're like, am I missing that piece of it? So it's just centralized everything. And behind that we also, you might have noticed, in the system, there's these links to what we call the field guide, which is it's a work in process. But if you want to know about item 2, you'll click on item 2, and we've written articles on every piece of franchising that starts with what is an FDD, so that a lot of our clients are new to franchising. So as they come through, and then as they march through, it's how do you get site selection if we're talking about that? What are best practices? And we actually put in there a field guide at SpadeaLaw.com to get suggestions from our clients. Hey, you should write about this, or I think that this is a way that we do it. So we're trying to create a community of interest with our clients who aren't really competing against each other. In a sense, they're all trying to just be better franchisors, which ultimately helps franchisees.
Of course.
If you're a better franchisor, if you can communicate transparently, if you can then get your passion and what you've been successful into the hands where it's needed most, your franchisees will make more money, which ultimately, that's what collectively pays all of our bills. If franchisees at the unit level are profitable and happy, then the whole system works. And when that breaks down, and so we're trying to coach our franchisor clients, and it does come back to legal, because compliance and legal and building something that's worth real value is something that we're building that foundation for our clients. So CAP was a big step, and we're just going to keep improving it.
And no other competitors have something like this in place. Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, no, nobody. law
Good for
firms,
you guys.
law firms are traditionally very,
Yeah, slow with technology,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
and,
that's
and
not-
you know, at some level, it feeds into how we charge. So the fact that we do a subscription fee,
Right.
you know, we're going to charge X amount of dollars per month, depending on how big you are or how much activity you have, and it's all in. Call as much as you want. And so we know that if we can reduce our effort and our time, it makes us more profitable, clients love it.
efficient.
And so a lot of law firms have a disincentive. If I can take something that would take us 2 hours or 15 minutes every time you call, and I eliminate it to 0 because you can go on cap,
Right.
a traditional law firm, that's taking money out of their pocket.
Right.
So they think a little backwards, and
Yeah.
so we're thrilled about it. I mean, I think we're kind of taking a unique approach to it.
Okay, and the other piece, because it's interactive, that they can put comments in there.
Right.
You'll also get to see the same questions maybe coming out, and then you can keep changing it and
Right.
revising it and making this even that much better of a system for everyone. So
I'm
this
sure
is
we'll
the
go
cap-
back
Yeah.
and we'll look at these screens 3 years from
think,
now,
right.
and we'll be embarrassed by them, and we'll say, "Oh my God, we
How
were in the
did we
Stone
ever
Ages."
come up with this?
But that's
you got
awesome.
to start from somewhere.
I love that. I mean, maybe it comes from my manufacturing background, as I grew up in building stuff, and so I like building things. It's very fun. It's exciting, and helping clients build things is very personally gratifying, and it works.
Well, I wish you incredible success with this system. It sounds wonderful. And we're running low on time. I want to leave the audience, though, about your law firm that's located in Philadelphia. Can you talk about any accolades that you've had recently?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've won a lot of awards, and we're very excited about that. We're in the top of the entrepreneur nationwide in terms of franchise law firms. We're always scoring the top of that. I think we just got the Franchise Times. 14 of our attorneys got the Legal Eagle. And that it really shows towards, in terms of attorneys working in the business, we're probably one of the larger franchise law firms. We're not the largest law firms because all we do is franchising.
Right.
But so yeah, we just are constantly, it's humbling, and it's nice.
Well, congratulations and best continued success to you in 2022 with all these new FDDs that are going to be coming
Yeah,
out.
we're
There's
busy.
so much more mainstream process there. And to reach out to Tom Spadea, his contact information is going to be thrown up on the screen there for you. And he will, as you can see, he's very personable, will really talk to you, not at you, and really explain things. And thank you so much, Tom, for joining me on this show and talking about all of this great information. And this is Franchise Focus. I'm your host every week, Lisa Linkowski. I am a certified franchise consultant. You can learn more about me at Milestone Franchising. And Franchise Focus runs every Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for tuning in.